Moments ago, Congressman Ted Lieu just accused Attorney General Pam Bondi of lying under oath on camera in front of Congress and demanded she resign immediately. What you're about to see isn't typical congressional theater. It's a member of Congress presenting photographic evidence of a crime, citing witness statements to the FBI, and systematically dismantling the Department of Justice's claim that there's no evidence to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Here's what just happened. Lieu displayed 2 photos of Prince Andrew at Epstein parties with a victim whose face was redacted to comply with congressional law protecting trafficking victims. He established that DOJ followed the law by redacting her face, which means DOJ acknowledges she's a trafficking victim. Then he dropped the hammer. Under the Federal Victims of Trafficking Protection Act, anyone who patronizes a sex trafficking operation is guilty of a crime. Those photos are evidence. And in July 2025, Bondi's Department of Justice closed the investigation, stating they found no evidence to predicate charges against uncharged third parties. Lieu didn't stop there. He introduced an FBI witness statement from a limo driver who overheard Trump talking to Epstein on a cell phone and later met a girl who said she was raped by both men, a girl who later died in what officers said couldn't have been suicide. Lieu stated no one at DOJ interviewed this witness. Bondi's response: "There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that." Lieu's reply: "I believe you just lied under oath and this is all on videotape." Then he demanded her resignation. This wasn't a policy disagreement. It was a congressman presenting evidence and a sitting attorney general refusing to acknowledge it exists.
I have a UC.
Ms. Crockett from Texas is recognized for UC.
Thank you so much. Donald Trump's approval rating implodes on his strongest issue. This is from Newsweek today. It says 40% of people approve of Trump's handling of immigration and border security, while 60% disapprove.
Without objection,
that is a
admitted.
net drop.
Now I recognize the gentleman
20.
from California, Mr. Lieu.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here today. I'm going to show you 2 photos.
Thank you.
I'm going to show you 2 photos of former Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, that we redacted the victim's
Because you were
face?
following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You have now established that please put the photos back up, that we are looking at a sex trafficking victim. Under the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act, not only is Jeffrey Epstein guilty, but anyone who patronizes Epstein's sex operation is also guilty of a crime. That's why I find it absolutely despicable that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew. Last July, you closed the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." These 2 photos, please put the photos back up. These 2 photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before.
I agree with you.
You twice.
I'm reclaiming my time.
Never
I agree with
mentioned
you. I agree with you. During the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures, but you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. So I want to move on to another man.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another
Can I
question.
answer your question about protecting
You
Prince
answered the
Andrew?
question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files. like former Prince. Here's the video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm reclaiming my time.
be
I got your
released.
answer. You said there's no evidence.
President Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please
I'd like
stop
to
the clock.
reclaim my
to
time.
Stop
sign
the clock.
the legislation.
Time.
This is
Time.
this
I'd like
is
to reclaim
ridiculous.
my time.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we say here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing
The
concludes.
gentleman has expired.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did not ask a question,
But
Mr.
he
Head.
doesn't
You're
want
allowed
to talk
to.
about
I did
the
not ask a
horrific
question.
crime in California. He does not want to talk about
I did not ask a question.
crime in his
She
state.
can't just
Madam
ad
Attorney
lib
General.
stuff. I did not ask a
Donald Trump.
question.
Meeting will be in order. The gentleman has yielded back his time. I think our next witness will be.
What Ted Lieu just did wasn't political grandstanding. It was methodical presentation of evidence that directly contradicts the Attorney General's sworn testimony. And I need you to understand why this exchange represents a complete breakdown in how justice is supposed to function. Lieu started with careful legal setup. He displayed 2 photographs of Prince Andrew at Epstein parties with a victim whose face was redacted. He asked Bondi to confirm that DOJ redacted the victim's face because they were following congressional law protecting trafficking victims. Bondi confirmed yes, that's a legal admission. By redacting the victim's face under law protecting Epstein's trafficking victims, DOJ is acknowledging the person in those photos is officially recognized as a sex trafficking victim. Here's where Lieu's legal argument becomes airtight. Under the Federal Victims of Trafficking Protection Act, it's not just the trafficker who commits a crime. Anyone who patronizes a sex trafficking operation is also guilty. So if DOJ acknowledges the woman in those photos is a trafficking victim, and Prince Andrew is photographed with her at Epstein events, those photos constitute evidence of a crime, not suspicion. Evidence that would predicate an investigation. But in July 2025, Bondi's Department of Justice issued a memo stating, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." Lieu held up those photos and asked, "How can you say there's no evidence when these photos, which your own department redacted under victim protection law, are staring you in the face?" Bondi's response was deflection. She said Lieu didn't ask these questions of Merrick Garland. Lieu immediately acknowledged that. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta. A whole string of failures, but you are in charge now. You have the power to change things and hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. That's the critical distinction. Past failures don't excuse current inaction, especially when the current Attorney General has explicitly closed investigations that photographic evidence suggests should be opened. Then Lieu moved to Trump. He showed video of Trump at Epstein parties and asked whether there were underage girls present. Bondi's answer revealed everything. This is so ridiculous. They are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. Let me break down why that answer is catastrophic. First, an attorney general's job isn't to defend the president's legacy or talk about great things he's done. It's to enforce law impartially based on evidence. Bondi just told Congress that investigating Trump is ridiculous and a deflection. That's not legal analysis, it's political protection. Second, she said, there is no evidence Trump committed a crime. Lieu immediately challenged that under oath. He introduced an FBI witness statement from a limo driver who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center. According to Lieu, this witness drove Trump, overheard him talking to Epstein on a cell phone, and the conversation made him so angry he considered stopping the limo. The witness also met a girl who said she was raped by both Trump and Epstein. That girl later died from a gunshot wound that officers at the scene said couldn't have been suicide. Lieu stated clearly, no one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. If that's accurate, and Bondi didn't dispute it, then Bondi's claim that there's no evidence is false. There's a witness statement to the FBI. That's evidence. It may not be sufficient to charge, but it's evidence that warrants investigation. If DOJ never interviewed the witness, they can't claim they thoroughly investigated and found nothing. That's when Lieu said, I believe you just lied under oath and this is all on videotape. Bondi responded angrily, don't you ever accuse me of a crime. But Lieu didn't back down. He repeated, you said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. Here's the institutional crisis this exposes. If the Attorney General testifies under oath that there's no evidence, and a member of Congress presents witness statements and photographic evidence that were never investigated, one of two things is true. Either Bondi doesn't know what evidence exists in her own department, which means incompetence, or she does know and is misrepresenting it to Congress, which means perjury. Lieu ended with moral condemnation. Epstein should rot in hell. So should the men who patronized this operation. As we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes. That's not hyperbole. If there are over 1,000 identified victims and 0 prosecutions of clients, that's not a gap in evidence. It's a failure of will. When the Attorney General says there's no evidence while sitting in front of photographs her own department redacted as victim protection while witness statements go uninterviewed, the failure isn't investigative, it's deliberate. Here's what should alarm every American. The Department of Justice exists to enforce laws equally. When photographic evidence gets ignored, when FBI witness statements go uninterviewed, when investigations get closed with memos saying no evidence exists despite contrary documentation, and when the Attorney General defends the president's legacy instead of addressing evidence, you don't have a justice system. You have a protection racket. Lieu presented specific evidence. Redacted photos proving victim status, witness statements to the FBI, and a DOJ memo closing investigations. Bondi's response was to defend Trump's accomplishments and claim no evidence exists. That's not a legal argument. It's political immunity. Demand answers. Why were photos redacted if there's no victim? Why wasn't the limo driver interviewed? Why did the July 2025 memo close investigations when evidence existed? And why is the Attorney General defending the president's legacy instead of explaining why evidence wasn't pursued? Because if attorneys general can selectively acknowledge evidence when it protects victims but ignore it when it implicates powerful men, then justice isn't blind, it's selective. And a system where evidence matters only when politically convenient isn't a justice system at all.